Hello and welcome to Nigerian Now on Echo Television International, where we look at various stories, especially very burning issues that are concerning or that are actually, surrounding a lot of things in Nigeria. Quite a lot has happened from yesterday down to today, and we think it's important that we tend to look at some of those key issues that have happened and then how we can provide solution or recommend ways that Nigeria can be better. I am Sada Elisha Dasham, and I will be doing this together with Jemima Emmanuel. Good afternoon,
Good
Jemima. How you
afternoon.
doing?
I'm
You
fine.
tend to be excited. It seems the issues of Nigeria are very dear to your heart. All right, quite a lot on our plates today. Please, viewers, do well to follow us on, our social media, talking about Facebook and YouTube, because we'll be there live, so you can drop some of your recommendation regarding what we will be looking at this afternoon. And Jemima, quite a lot on our plate to let's try and see how we'll be able to wrap our heads in some of those burning issues. And I think one that I think it is important that we talk about is the nationwide broadcast of the president. It happened to be his second broadcast ever since he mounted the office as the president of Nigeria. And then we know that from his inaugural speech, that's talking about his swearing-in speech, he made quite a number of revelations, among which was the removal of the fuel subsidy. And of course, a lot of people looking at the various presidential aspirants then talking about them. Are we talking about Peter Obi of the Labour Party? Are we talking about Atiku of the PDP? Including he himself, they all mentioned the fact that it is important that we remove the fuel subsidy because we are having where some people, few individuals, are getting rich by the day while the poor keep getting poor. And so the president then felt it was important that he remove the fuel subsidy. And we know that the removal of that fuel subsidy brought a lot, in fact, a lot of hardship on Nigerians, people who were actually using maybe transport fare to come to work and then trek back home. Right now, you trek to work, trek back to work. Are we going to talk about the increase of price of transport and also services, goods and services in the market? Transportation have skyrocketed. If you were budgeting, I sat back and I was like, in the interval of less than 6 months, my transport is now over 200% increase.
Yes.
Because if you were actually using maybe 17 naira before, right now it's 200 or 250 to that same destination. Why? Because of course the commuters have to use fuel, and right now fuel is over 600 naira. Then it was 209. Some people were at the point that already the already removal of subsidy, but from 200 it became 450 and then up. Now yesterday Nigerians were waiting to see what is the president going to tell us. We are hoping he will be able to address some of these burning issues, and in the midst of this we're seeing that NLC are saying they are going on strike tomorrow. They had a meeting yesterday with the federal government. They still insisted they are going on that strike. Today they are having another meeting that will actually tell if they will still go on that strike tomorrow. So quite a number of things the president mentioned in his speech yesterday, and time will not permit us to go through it, but a few of the things he mentioned was the fact that it was important that he removed the fuel subsidy. He mentioned some of the measures he wants to help, talking about small and medium enterprises, giving of 50,000 naira, and a lot of Nigerians like 50,000 naira. That is like talking about Nigeria in a middle income earner. That is what he or she earns to actually run. And then is this same 50,000 naira right now? You have to fuel your car, and then a lot of people have parked their car. So Jemima, quite a lot. So I don't know, what do you feel about this address coming from the president yesterday?
Well, I feel that a lot of the needs were not really met. I would say he gave a very beautiful speech.
Very beautiful.
Very beautiful. But if you look at it in the reality, it didn't really have much to do with our needs at this point in time. It didn't meet a lot of things that we are struggling with. We're talking about transportation, we're talking about food, we're talking about health, we're talking about a lot of things that have skyrocketed just over a very short period of time. Transportation that you could go for 50 naira, now we're talking about 150 at this point in time. So it didn't really meet a lot of our needs at the moment, and a lot of people are already disappointed in the speech that he gave yesterday. He talked about trillions of naira, millions of naira that will be given. Let's look at this 50,000 that he said will be given to businesses. If you want to fill your tank in this era, I think 50,000 naira would do that.
Enough.
Would not
it
even
depends on
do
the type of
depending
car
on the tank you have.
have.
But I think 50,000 naira would only fill a tank that is about 40 liters or so. It will not do much if you're going to the market to buy millet, to buy maize. A measure is going for around 800 naira
True.
or more at the moment. And then how much of that will you buy that would feed you for a good number of time? I don't think that amount will do much at this point in time. So that speech that he gave watered down, brought down a lot of disappointment so far to people. A lot of people are already showing their grievances through that. It looks like a fake speech, beautifully fake speech. There's no authenticity to that. You cannot hold weight with what he did. All the trillions of naira they were giving, the businesses, the grains that will be given, is not really meeting our immediate need at this point in time.
Remember, you mentioned a very important key point, the fact that it is not really addressing our immediate need, because if you take a look at the things he said he will be doing, he mentioned even including some of the CNG buses that he will provide for school.
Yes.
And a lot of people have raised concerns with the fact that this is where we need our SUGs to be strong, the student union government to be strong, to make sure that they come out to fight for the just cause of the student. And then a lot of things, you know, talking about sharing of grains, talking about fertilizer for farmers. I think he mentioned that quite earlier before now. I think it was just added to his speech. He also make mention of the fact that they have to stop the hike of tuition fee, because over the weekend down, we've been hearing of a lot of schools that have increased tuition fee. One very close to us here is the University of Jos, where we saw that returning students had to pay 150,000 naira, and then we're having new students to be paying over 200,000 naira. And then you begin to ask, whereby your cost of living keep increasing, and then your earnings does not increase or have not increased. Your wages is still there, and we're talking about living wage. How much can Nigerians go out very far? And then, you know, he also mentioned the fact that very soon he's going to increase the, you know, talking about minimum wage of civil servants. Now the question, Jemima, is how soon is soon? That is the question.
True.
How soon is soon? Because from May 29 to the point where he asked the House of Assembly to actually approve the 500 billion naira that will be given to Nigerians, where we saw the 8,000 naira that a lot of Nigerians kick against, and then they're like, how can you say giving 8,000 naira to 12 million households? We're not talking about individuals. So Jemima, if we're living in the same house, I have 8,000, you have 8,000, we can actually add it up together, and then we have 16,000 naira to be able to do something. You and I even know that right now with 16,000 naira or 8,000 naira, when you go to the market, you are sure of coming back with a black polythene bag, not even the yellow one, black, or even the big one. Talking about small. How much are vegetables? You make mention of grains. A measure right now is over 800 naira and above. And a lot of people can no longer even afford the foreign rice. So a lot of people have resorted to using the local rice. That is, if you can even afford rice in your home. Right now, the square meal is around 101 or 001, regarding on what you can afford. Is it just breakfast, or you skip breakfast and eat lunch and skip dinner? Quite a lot of Nigerians are going through. And just like we said, this speech looked very fancy, looked very beautiful. But I hope that the president knows that Nigerians are watching carefully. And no wonder we saw what happened in Adamawa, where the resident there felt that they are tired of waiting. How long can we keep waiting? At the end of the day, what the government promised us, we can't even get it. And then he's making mention of the fact that grains in the silo of the government is what they want to use. And then the last time we heard about that was the fact that during the flooding of last year, a lot of grains was being used. So little is left in that silo. So where is the food you intend to? People have raised concern, even though he told us that for the past 2 months we stopped paying for a subsidy. We've saved over 1 trillion naira. So I hope that that money will actually be injected into all of these places you mentioned. Is it the health sector? Presently, our resident doctors are on strike.
True.
I was talking about school. By September, a lot of parents will be jumping, writing undertaking if you're in primary or secondary school. If you're in university, you and I know you have to pay the tuition fee or no clearance, and a lot of things will be denied for you. So where do we want things to fix? We're going to talk about transport sector. A lot of our routes, you can't even use it. Just from here to one point or the other, where you're supposed to spend an hour, you spend over 3 hours, 4 hours. So quite a lot. But I hope that beyond just addressing Nigerians, the president will realize that we need to sit up, the government need to sit up and do the right thing so that Nigerians will know that truly you feel our pain. If you say let the poor breathe, let us see us breathing, let the poor breathe truly by some of the policy, even though they are tough, but let us see you bringing measures that will actually make Nigerians feel comfortable in their own land.
Yes.
And you know, Jemima, still talking about that, just yesterday we saw the screening of ministers. Quite a number of 14 of them were being screened, even though some there was controversy either about age. I think one clearly was the ministerial nominee from Benue State, where we saw the back and forth that it was because Idoma and the thief were having an issue. Who will be the minister? And then even on getting here, his age, he said he was born in 1980 and then he finished in 1989. And they're like, so that means you finish at age 9? Because that means you started primary at age 3. And then I remember Senator Elisha Abo said that it is possible because he wrote commentaries in primary 3 and then he came out with flying colors. So quite a lot. And questions would be like, was there no background check before some of these nominees were being brought to book, before the list even left the hands of the president down to Senate? So quite a lot, Rachel, concern. Sorry, Jemima, on the issue of the ministerial, nominees.
Well, I feel at this point there should have been a straightforward rule and guide on how to go that. This kind of observations shouldn't be raised at this point in time, because this is a more serious and delicate position and things that should be taken more seriously. So there shouldn't be issues of date of birth, year of birth, qualifications and whatnot. These things should have been spelled out accurately and then seen clearly for everyone, not people coming to ask questions. These are not children. We're not playing games here. These are serious things that have to do with our country and have to do with our welfare in the long run. So these are not issues that should be coming up. So for me, all these issues arising at this point in time just goes a long way to say that there was no serious check.
There was no thorough investigation.
Yes, there was no thorough investigation into the whole thing. It was just taken very
yeah, because
lightly.
I remember when Nigerians then, they were like, it seems as if we have another arm of government, because a lot of Nigerians brought out their own list of who they wanted to be ministers. And then the president told us that after then it will be given to the EFCC and the DSS to actually cross-check. Let us look if they have any criminal record whatsoever before the list will get to the Senate. Even though we know that Wike, some of them were being asked to bow and actually go. Wike actually had opportunity to defend, saying the fact that he has done his best in his state. And I think it's part of the thing. We look at some of their background check as former governors. What did you do? And no wonder even on the papers yesterday, we saw where an Islamic cleric came out to say that he is against El-Rufai representing, because people have a lot to actually say about people's personality, because they feel, looking at the small position given to you, how were you able to run that place? You are expected to be given a bigger role. A lot of issues right now are really, really in need of ministers to actually address it. Because especially looking at the speech of the president, it is expected that he has ministers that will be able to bring to book all of the things he's saying. And so it is important that let's have ministers that actually we can vouch for them and say these ministers are representing us properly. These ministers have what it takes to actually rule their various ministry, because we're tired of having ministers that will come out and say my portfolio does not match what I'm being given. Actually studied medical medicine, and then at the end of the day I'm being given maybe to be the Minister of Labor or Minister of State, and I have no idea how to run that, or we have somebody that have studied something quite different and then been given the Minister of Education, and he has no idea what it means to actually do well when it comes to the educational sector. So it's our desire that after the Senate have a thorough check, screening them, all that it needs to be done. Honestly, we hope for the rest, because so far it's just 14, even though some are pending because of some record whatsoever. We're hoping to see the remaining, because constitutionally it's expected that we have about 37 ministers. That's 36 from each state, including the FCT. So our fingers are crossed. Let us see how the rest of the screening will go, and we hope that the rest of the people that are yet to be screened, the Senate will actually take their time to screen them very, 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 very well, because quite a lot to actually handle.
Yes, there's a lot to put in place before deciding who would do what at what point. And if they check it thoroughly now, it will be good for them to be able to know what to do when they are being given their different designated positions. They would be able to handle it with
focused, yes, on that
focus,
place.
because all these things have been dealt with at this point in time.
Of course, Jemima. And lastly, before we close for today, I'd like us to look at the issue of insecurity. It's no longer, like say, strange to us. It's no longer news to us that insecurity is really, really eating deep into our economy, really eating deep into our country. And if something is not being done concerning insecurity, honestly, I do not know how all of the policy the president has said will actually thrive. Because it caught my attention that even in the president's speech, he didn't mention anything regarding security. How he hoped to secure our properties, how he hoped to secure the transport sector, because once the road is very free, believe you me, Jemima, you can go to the market free and come back. For our farmers, they don't have a problem transporting their goods from the farm down to the market. And even buyers will not have a problem going, because we have farmers that are buyers actually take it upon themselves, the burden, to go down to the farm to buy it, rather than waiting for the farmer to come over to actually buy. But with the issue of insecurity, it is quite difficult for business to strive, and it has affected the economy badly, because we've seen that as a result of farmers being killed, they can't go to their farmland. So we have very little actually in the market, and then even what on a normal day that you, just like we mentioned earlier, you get it on a cheaper rate, it's higher right now, because not only are the produce not even there, they are very limited for Nigerians to have access. And then it's Ribadu, because we've been having the issue of IPOP. I mean, since 2021, there have been agitation that was when they had the first seat at home, because they were pushing for Nnamdi Kanu to be released. And that was why Ribadu felt it was important that he meet with the governors of the Southeast in regarding to that issue, because quite a lot, even though what they discussed was not really out to the public to know that this was what he recovered, but people have been speculating with the issue of the seat at home. Lots of money have been lost because people, businessmen and women, cannot go do anything for themselves. And then we had a protest that happened last week in Enugu, where businessmen and women resorted to the street protesting. One died, and then as a result of that, so quite a lot. When you look at insecurity as a whole, I think really, really a lot needs to be done.
True. Yes, a lot needs to be done, especially from the leaders at the top. These things that are causing the insecurity, what have been done about it? How have they been dealt with? How do we come to a pleasant conclusion whereby these things are not being repeated again? So this starts from the top, from the leaders. So in as much as we will do our own best from our positions, our little positions down here, but more of the work has to do with our leaders from up. They would look into it and see that it is being stopped and not repeated at the end of the day.
Well, as we talk to you right now, the Senate have said that they are not going to release Nnamdi Kanu because of some very security reasons that are best known to them. But I think it's important that we see how we can secure lives, even though Ribadu met with the governors of the Southeast. But then I think it's important that we even meet those governors of the Northeast, because recently there was an attack in Kaduna farm. We have another in Zamfara and Borno State. And so quite a lot is happening. Even Plateau State here, just recently, not long, we had attack in Berkiladi and Mangu, where a lot of things are not really going well. So it's our desire, honestly. Yesterday, the president actually decorated the service shift, so officially things need to get working well. Thank you so much, Jemima, for doing this with me. It's my pleasure to always have you with me on set.
Same here.
And thank you to our viewers for, actually keying into the program today. It's really, really happy to have you always, and it's our desire to do this over and over with you again. Until we come you again tomorrow, do have a blessed afternoon ahead. Bye for now.